told that narcissists are deeply insecure, right? They secretly hate themselves, that all of their manipulation, all of their ego, it's just this mask for inner fragility. But what if that's not true? What if their biggest fears are actually not rooted in insecurity at all, but something so much more disturbing, right? Let's talk about 7 things that narcissists fear most and why insecurity is not one of them. I used to believe that narcissists were insecure too, right? That deep down, they're just these broken little kids inside of adult bodies. They're just desperate for approval and attention. And I get why that story is basically comforting, right? It makes them seem human, more fixable, but it's not accurate. Through the work of Dr. Gregory Lester, Dr. George Simon, Dr. Les Carter, Dr. Peter Salerno, I have come to see this completely differently, and I want to share this with you. Narcissists don't feel inferior. They feel entitled. We all know that they have a superiority complex. That means that they believe that they're better than you. They're smarter than you. They're more deserving. They're more important. Insecurity, that implies self-doubt. Narcissists don't doubt themselves. They doubt you, right? Your intelligence, definitely your loyalty, your worthiness to challenge them. Their behavior is not compensating for low self-esteem. It's enforcing dominance, protecting control. It's keeping you in your place. So as Dr. George Simon writes, narcissists are not struggling with insecurity. They are convinced of their superiority. Similarly, Dr. Gregory Lester challenges that really popular view of the narcissist, right, as wounded. He describes them as emotionally shallow, not emotionally wounded. They're not driven by fragile self-esteem. It's actually an inflated sense of entitlement and grandiosity. Dr. Les Carter has even added that what often appears as insecurity is actually irritation at not being given the special treatment. Understanding this shift changes everything, because if they aren't secretly broken, then fixing them is what? It's a trap. Author Shahida Arabi puts it so bluntly, narcissists don't hate themselves deep down. They hate being ordinary. Sandra L. Brown, right? She reminds us their behavior is not really about unhealed wounds, but actually a hardwired need for power. They are devoid of relational empathy. These are not insecure little boys. They are entitled adults who feel entitled to control, to admiration and submission. Now, I always do want to note that on my channel, I focus on male narcissists, and that does not mean that women are not also narcissistic. So I'm going to go through their 7 fears, and I am keeping the deepest cut for last. So let's start with shame. Wit belongs on this list, but I want to be really clear because narcissists don't actually experience shame the way that most people do. It's not guilt or remorse for any of their behavior. It's actually the fear of being seen as flawed or wrong or weak. Dr. Lester has said that narcissists often lack this emotional depth. That includes genuine empathy, but they do fear the disruption of their self-image. Now, Dr. George Simon has called it manipulative pride. Tell me that doesn't feel so accurate. Because the shame isn't internalized, it's actually avoided at all costs. So if you trigger it, they're going to deflect and blame and destroy you just to get it off their back. So what makes this fear even more complex is that narcissists don't always consciously register shame. It kind of lives like right under the surface, and it comes out as rage or even cruelty anytime their image or their authority is threatened. They're going to project that shame onto other people. They'll make you feel defective, basically so they don't have to. And that's why survivors so often feel deeply ashamed after conflict, because even though you did nothing wrong, that's what comes up. This is actually the fear that drives so much of that mask-wearing behavior, right? If you never see the truth, then they never have to face it. And at its core, shame really threatens that illusion of superiority, right? And that illusion, it's all they have. The next fear is failure. To a narcissist, failure isn't like a learning opportunity. It's humiliation. It's an insult. They need to be seen as successful and competent and superior, because success for them, it's not about growth. It's literally who they are. It's about identity. Failure threatens the fantasy, so they lie about it. They sabotage people. They blame anyone and everyone except themselves. They might even obsessively compare themselves to other people because they always need to come out on top, right? Even that slightest shortfall could be losing a game, just being corrected, earning less than a peer or you. That can spiral them into obsession or even aggression. Their definition of success isn't about contribution or meaning, it's about optics. I can tell you from my abuser, his whole definition of success was being more successful than his father, more financially successful specifically. That was the only definition. If other people perceive a narcissist as failing, their value for themselves, it completely crumbles. Failure makes them feel irrelevant or ordinary, right? And they're going to react as if that's some kind of threat to their entire survival. This one literally terrifies them. This leads us into the next one, which is exposure, right? That means being seen for who they really are. Not that mask, not what they're pretending to be, the manipulation, the cruelty, the deception. That's why they smear you. They rewrite history, they gaslight. And honestly, it's not just about getting away with bad behavior. It's about keeping this whole illusion alive. Exposure forces accountability. They hate that. Right? Narcissists are going to do anything to avoid it. Even the suggestion that they might be at fault can trigger a really aggressive defense. They rely on all these really carefully controlled narratives to keep their power, and exposure, it disrupts all of that control. So they're going to isolate you before you can even tell people what really happened. And if you do speak out, oh my goodness, prepare for retaliation. Their fear is not about what you know. It's about who might believe you. Losing control is the next one, and control is everything. Control over the conversation, over the narrative, over your emotions, your time, your perception of reality. When they lose control, they feel exposed, vulnerable, powerless, and that's what makes them push harder and harder. That's where you start to see breadcrumbing and love bombing. They'll threaten you, hoover you, anything to regain their grip. All these false promises, it's all to get their power back. They view control as an absolute right. It's not just a privilege. Your independence, your autonomy, even just peace, it actually threatens that right for them. So the moment that you stop reacting or questioning or defending yourself, you become dangerous to them. That's when they're going to double down on all of these tactics, because without control, they can't predict you. They can't dominate your choices. Unpredictability is terrifying. The next one is that narcissists fear being ignored. They don't just want admiration. They want importance. They want relevance. They want everything and everyone to revolve around them. So if they're not the focus, they feel invisible. Being ignored, that is devastating. If somebody else is the focus, they have got to find a way to make it about them. So they will disrupt, they will compete, they will punish you. And honestly, it's not always loud or obvious, right? You've got the covert ones that are very subtle. Could just be interrupting your story, minimizing your achievements, just sort of shift the conversation back to themselves. Maybe they play the victim to regain focus. Oh, they're suddenly ill, there's a crisis, some kind of conflict, anything to be the center. For them, that's more than validation. It's proof that they exist and matter. When other people shine, they feel like they're eclipsed, and their resentment can become toxic really fast. The next one is humiliation, and this is different from shame. This is more about public defeat. Being laughed at, corrected, exposed in front of other people, that is a direct hit to the ego. Dr. Les Carter talks about this as a trigger for narcissistic rage, not sadness, rage. Because being humbled, that is intolerable. Humiliation makes them feel powerless and small, which are two feelings that they believe that they're above. So even well-meaning feedback, right? You're just, hey, I'm just asking something. I'm just giving you some feedback. That can be interpreted as an attack, especially if other people are watching, right? And this fear often drives their hypercriticism of other people, including you. They humiliate to avoid being humiliated. It's like a defensive move, right? They're going to strike first to avoid being the one who gets struck. And if you have ever seen a narcissist explode over something minor in public, you have actually witnessed this fear in action. Okay, so here's the deepest cut, the last one, rejection. Not being wanted, not being needed, not being special, right? This is where the whole house of cards just collapses. Dr. Peter Salerno has said that narcissists don't even grieve relationships. They grieve power. They grieve access. And at the end of a relationship, to them, it's not about heartbreak, right? They're losing their grip on your reality, your loyalty, your usefulness. Rejection tells them that they're disposable, they're replaceable. And for someone that believes that they're superior, that is a direct assault on the fantasy. Rejection doesn't just hurt their pride, it obliterates it. It means their charm didn't work, right? Their manipulation failed. And so worst of all, Someone saw through it and said, no. This is why so many narcissists are going to cycle through these extreme reactions when they're rejected, right? You're going to see the love bombing. You break up with them and they're like, please, no, I'll try. But then you don't come back and they punish you and they smear you, because it's not about losing you. It is about losing control over the story that you tell about them, directly or indirectly, right? You being with them tells a story. Understanding what narcissists fear, it helps you stop playing the wrong role, right? You're going to stop over-explaining, stop trying to reassure, stop trying to make them feel secure. Nothing you say could ever make them feel that way. They don't want connection. They want control. I know, trust me from firsthand experience, I know how hard that is to accept. We think that deep down they just want love and intimacy like we do, but they don't. They want to dominate, not relate. Control gives them power, predictability. It gives them the ability to really just shape and mold how other people see them. Real connection requires vulnerability and mutual respect. They avoid those things at all costs. When you see this all really clearly, you actually stop trying to bond with someone who only wants to bind you. That's all they want to do. They don't fear being unloved. They fear being unimportant. Do you see the distinction? The most dangerous thing you can ever do to a narcissist is realize that you don't need them. So which of these fears have you seen in action? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more real talk like this, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share with someone who needs to hear this.